Mary,
Yes.
Sharon, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Wanted to talk to you guys today about Incline Education Fund, which you both started.
Yep.
How long ago did you start IEF?
2019, but it was the end of 2019, and we held our first public event literally the day before the world shut down.
Oh wow, so perfect timing.
Timing is everything.
Yeah, it was a suicide prevention talk, and we brought in a speaker and held events at the middle and high school, and then a community-wide event for parents so that everybody was getting the same message at the same time. And literally the next morning, Governor Sisolak shut the state down. So timing could have been a little bit better.
So what is Incline Education Fund?
Incline Education Fund is an overarching umbrella that supports the 3 public schools in Incline. And our goal is not to be at the boots on the ground, not to interrupt with what the PTA, the junior boosters, or the boosters are doing, because they are charged and do beautifully the day-to-day, 1-year programming. We look at the 5 to 10-year plan. What are they doing at the middle school that affects the elementary school and the high school? How do changes at the high school, how do they need to affect what's happening at the middle and the elementary school? And creating collaboration and opportunities to connect between the 3 schools, so that with the new engineering program at the high school, how does that affect what the robotics class is doing at the middle school? And now that the robotics teacher knows the elementary school teacher, is like, wow, hey, you have this equipment, could we share it? So the elementary school has started, and the middle school have started a library where they can collaborate and share equipment to make those dollars, those community dollars, more valuable.
Nice. So more strategic planning, if you will.
Sort of, yeah. And more, I don't want to say visionary, but someone who's taking a look at the bigger picture for education and how are all of our students getting prepared for that whole pathway. Now, to say that, we don't work just for the public schools, we do, but we also are mindful of homeschooled kids or kids that go to LDS or kids that go to T, because we're a small community here.
Yeah.
And kids all play sports together, and they need to be able to communicate and work with each other.
And collaborate, right? I mean, we have small amount of resources, finite amount of resources,
right.
Not only brick and mortar resources, but obviously, we have iPads here, like you said, robotics programs and things elsewhere.
Well, and a lot of the kids that will go to different elementary and middle schools end up together at the high school and become close friends. So it's better for them to grow up together and appreciate and enjoy each other, as opposed to creating a separation. So that's where we feel the collaboration is really important.
Right. And as you said, we have a finite amount of resources here in town. There are so many different nonprofits, not just education ones. So we try to be very mindful of not stepping on anyone else's turf or territory when it comes to the fundraising things. We don't hold galas or fundraising events like the crab feed or anything like that, because that's their world, and we want to let them have that because that's important to them, and they need those resources for the programs that they're doing. So we take a different approach for our fundraising, and we go directly to donors or provide like membership programs or corporate programs or sponsorships and things like that.
And one of the things that we are really proud of is that we have brought in, for us, a significant amount of out-of-basin dollars that would never not come to Incline except through grants that we've won. So we feel like that's adding a lot of value, because we are not going to the same community members saying, okay, we need our fair share. And through this collaboration, we feel that both we and the nonprofits or business organizations we work with both are more effective in achieving our goals, because we're working together instead of fighting each other for a similar piece of the pie.
So do you find that the different communities that you're touching are receptive to your help?
Yeah, very much so.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Great. Do you think that, without, you guys obviously did this for a reason, right? You're filling a need, but why Incline?
Because we live here.
So you have kids that went through our school system?
Yes.
Yep.
And you're part of boosters, and
We
met at the high school booster level. And what we found over the years we were there was that there wasn't someone who looked down at the middle and elementary school. And when a great program gets started and that parent graduates out of the high school, sometimes that great program gets lost because there isn't someone to spearhead. So we wanted to make sure that some of those really valuable programs didn't ebb and flow depending on the parent support of the program, but there was someone looking over to say, okay, these are really worth saving, they're very sustainable, they will help the students and the school move forward. How do we create an organization that gives longevity to the academic process?
It's almost like providing some institutional knowledge.
Yeah.
Because if you're a parent in the high school, you're there for 4 years, you're out.
Yeah.
And as you should, most parents, when they move out of a particular grade level, so does their interest in their dollars.
Yeah.
Right? So who else then is remembering that, oh yeah, that program that we did for X, Y, or Z actually worked back then, and now we've got another kid in the system, or a nephew or a niece or a friend, and wait, they used to do it differently back then. How did they do that? So having some institutional knowledge around kind of helps make sure that programs that succeeded stay successful, and ones that didn't work don't bother coming back.
Yeah, so you're not repeating, right?
Right, don't make the same mistakes.
Who does, this sounds like a lot of work. I'm assuming you both are obviously spearheading, but do you have a team?
You're looking at it.
No way.
So, and another thing that we're proud of is, outside of bringing the out-of-basin dollars, is we are volunteers, which means over 99% of our donor dollars go directly to the programs they serve. We have almost no overhead.
Wow.
So
now, in saying that, we don't actually do the education piece of this.
We want to clarify, we are not. And if any of those teachers I've been in class with, because I was an emergency sub, they well know that I am not an educator.
Yeah.
But
we don't do that.
Emergency sub.
Emergency sub. That's me.
We do go find programs that are existing and we know that are successful. We'll bring the programs in. The closest we actually get to the education piece is, as Sharon said, when she's subbing or we're helping out a teacher. We don't educate students.
Yeah. And they're the experts, so we go to them with, what do you need? What does your school need? What is most important for your students this year? And as you know, these past couple years have been very unusual, and it has created a lot of different needs that in more stable times wouldn't pop up. But those needs popped up and they became immediate needs, and because we had started this prior to the pandemic, we were able to react more quickly than some of the other organizations might have.
Mm-hmm. So when you're talking about needs because of the pandemic, I could guess, but what are some things that you're actively seeing?
Well, the one we're concentrating most on right now is academic support. There was learning loss that occurred pretty much across the board, and that's a national thing. It's not just here in Incline. So students that didn't have the resources at home, whether those be technological resources or parent support or sibling support or tutoring support, anything like that, they've lost some math and some reading skills. And depending upon what age they were when the pandemic hit, a lot of our kids were at developmental milestones, and I think most people are aware of the reading to learn as opposed to learning to read. And if you were at the point where you were still learning to read, and you haven't developed into the reading to learn and then learning to read, you've lost a huge chunk.
Yeah.
And you can't do word problems in math if you don't know how to read. And if you didn't learn how to read, you can't learn. So it's all tied together, and we're helping provide some academic support for both math and reading in both the elementary and middle school to help get those kids back up to grade level. And we're seeing some significant improvement with that. It's going to take a couple more years probably
to catch up.
To
most
get kids to catch up. Yeah. And again, that's a national problem, not just local.
So you do the grant writing yourself?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, we're going to be looking for a grant writer though. So.
That will be our first foray.
It's the hiring call.
Yeah, there's a hiring call. Yeah, we've submitted a number of grants, and it is an arduous process, and but I think it was important for us to do it and go through it so that as we look for a grant writer, we know what we're looking for. But yeah, we've been pretty successful. We received, let's see if I can remember them all. We've gotten an $18,000 grant from the Nevada Governor's Office of Science, Innovation, and Technology to start the Makerspace program at the elementary school. We got a $50,000 grant from the same office the following year for the robotics program at the middle school. We got a $50,000 grant from the Washoe County Reinvestment Group for the engineering program at the high school.
Wow.
We've gotten several smaller grants from the local chapter of AAUW for really wonderful programs.
Yep.
I'll let you rattle those off because you're more familiar with it.
They have supported the math academic support at the elementary school, the culinary club at the middle school, which ties in experiential learning how to cook, and weaving in math and science foundations to help make that more real for the students, as well as supporting the new engineering program at the high school. So AAUW Tahoe, Nevada supported both of those, and then Rotary also.
Oh wait, the Girls Who Code.
And the Girls Who Code, which is in partnership with Ridgeline, that a lunchtime club where girls who are interested in futures with as software developers or any number of computer-based industries can get in front of their career aspirations.
And then the local Rotary groups have given us a number of grants to support the one-to-one technology program at the middle school, and this year was a literacy program for the middle school as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
I mean, for just having a team of 2, that's incredible.
Well, thank you.
You've raised a ton, and you've helped a ton of not just.
We raised over $400,000 so far just for programming.
Wow.
And
since you started.
Since we started.
And
then, well, it was over $500,000 in our endowment, but that was money that got invested, and it's crawling back up to $500,000.
Oh, good.
Endowment. So
yeah, keep it in there.
Took a little stock market.
Yeah. Naturally.
Yeah.
So if people hear the video and they want to give, I mean, what's your biggest need right now? Funding, and then how can people give? You said you do a lot of grant writing, obviously.
Right.
So what are other programs? And you're not doing galas, or big crowd feeds.
Right.
So how could people get involved or give, or are you working with other businesses as well?
Yeah, we got lots going on. We've got our big program, our feature program right now is called Step Up for STEM, as you would assume. It's for technology and science, technology, engineering, and math. And that is to support the programs across all 3 schools. So the makerspace at the elementary, the robotics at the middle, and the engineering at the high school. We were just awarded, the schools were just awarded the Nevada Governor's OSIT STEM school designation for both the elementary and high school just last week.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was really cool. Only 13 schools this year were approved, were awarded. And what that means is basically a seal of approval from the governor's office. That OSIT Office of Science and Innovation and Technology, it's a pretty arduous grant writing process, application. And then they actually come to the schools and do a site visit and make sure that everything that you said in the application is happening at the schools. And they have 4 different levels. It's emerging, developing, established, and model. And the elementary school came in at developing, which is the 2nd tier, which is amazing because it was only their 2nd year of the program.
Nice.
And they said they were actually close to becoming an established program already.
Wow.
Just need a couple of tweaks. So they actually asked us to apply again next year to get them bumped up to the established level. And we did the same thing for the high school, and they came in at an established school. And we actually paid the teachers who run those programs to help us write the education speak part of that application, and then we filled everything else in. But we were the only 2 schools in the whole state of Nevada that are aligned that got the designation together.
Wow.
And then we're hoping to apply for the middle school next year, and if we get that, when we get that, we will be the only K-12 STEM designated pathway in the state.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm going to get back to the middle school.
Yeah.
So if I can just so from a funding point of view, we did not think we'd receive these designations the first year. We're thrilled that we did, we being the schools, but our Step Up to STEM 3-year plan is we need to raise $300,000 to, we're calling it Bridge the Gap from 0 schools to all 3 schools, creating this K-12 STEM pathway. We will be the only K-12 school pathway in the state with this designation. And this designation, as Mary said, it shows that these schools are a model for the rest of the schools around the state. And to get there and to make sure that these programs stay current and that there are educators in the classrooms always for each of these students. We do have a $300,000 gap to get from here to there. And the reason that we have just a gap is that once you receive this designation, there are additional grant opportunities that are only available to the designated schools, which means that with two of the schools, the elementary school and the high school, we now have the opportunity to bring in more out-of-basin money into Incline, again, taking more pressure off local residents to create the highest level of education across the state. Now, we all know that Nevada is not at the top of the 50 states, but we feel with this additional funding that comes into the basin that our schools will be on par and competitive with any school across the country. And to be clear, that this does not mean it's only STEM, meaning we are only looking at science, technology,
that was my
engineering.
next question. Yeah, what about the arts?
Also English language arts and history and sociology. It is how you address the learning and how you create the thought process of really understanding what you're being taught. We the People is an excellent example of the STEM beliefs in action.
Yeah.
They are not just taking in and regurgitating. They are deeply learning and being involved, and they're processing,
collaborate, and
collaborate, teamwork to become what they are, which is of course a nationally known program from a little town in rural Nevada.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
amazing.
know it is funny to think about, right? The We the
It's
People
a phenomenal program.
has been phenomenally successful nationwide,
Yeah,
right?
and that's what we believe. We believe the success and the pride that Incline feels for We the People can be K-12, the K-12 STEM pathway, so that families who are looking to move in or not move into Incline, they'll look at these schools and be like, wow, I have to move here because this is the best education I can give my child.
Yeah, I mean, from a realtor's perspective, that's what people look at when they're looking at bringing their families here,
Absolutely.
right? And before, I think that the community was kind of known to be a retirement community and a college community, right?
Right.
We had this gap where we were missing, young families, and with COVID, we got such an influx of families and kids here, and we have very high enrollment, and the Lake Tahoe school, the private school in town, has a massive wait list, right? And so, that's great, and that's a great school, but getting that into the public schools as well, and to be able to fund and figure out where the gaps are, I think is really important.
And that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And we will be incorporating the arts into it as well.
Right.
So it will be, what did I call it? Something about steaming STEM.
Steaming, do you have to get the arts in there?
Yeah, and we feel very strongly.
Putting the steam in STEM, that's
right.
what it was. So yeah, we
really would love to get art at all three schools, because it's at the middle and the high school. It's not the elementary school. Being able to add that component is
and then just culture and diversity in general, right?
Yeah.
Which I think we're on our way there, but we just didn't have the population really to support.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you feel about the middle school and everything that's happening? Because that is, of course, a hot drama topic. I have to.
Of course.
I am a middle school alumni parent.
Okay.
So my daughter went there. So, and I have subbed there. We feel very strongly that there needs to be a middle school in town. Yeah. And we feel, again, to go back to our step up to the STEM, that we can reverse the current decline by making this K-12 STEM pathway. So when you enter kindergarten that you know what you're getting for the next 12 years, and you're proud of what your child is going to get for the next 12 years. Mary can attest to this better, but resort communities ebb and flow depending on what's going on in the wider world. Right now we're at an ebb, and we believe that can reverse. Yeah. So we do not believe that the school should be closed, and it's very short-sighted.
It is, and not only for the community on that longer-term perspective, but think about those kids, particularly the 8th graders. Where were they when COVID started? Beginning of middle school. So now all of a sudden we're going to tell them, oh yeah, we just blew up your middle school years because that was a mess for them. And so they didn't really learn how to behave socially in school. They forgot and not just our kids, I'm talking nationally, middle school kids have kind of forgotten how to go to school, and they need to relearn that. So to mess that whole system up and then, oh yeah, throw them up to the high school doesn't seem like a wise idea. It doesn't seem very healthy.
Yeah.
Socially, emotionally, or academically. And there are some gaps that need to be recovered, and you're not going to do that if you stick kids in more stressful situations.
Yeah.
Ideally, they will stay where they are. That's what we are working to help promote. The current principal, Carrie Michael, at the middle school is amazing, and she had the foresight and the brilliance to create what she calls exploratory Wednesdays. And what she's done is moved all of the academic periods around so that kids are finished with their normal academic schedules at noon on Wednesday, every Wednesday.
Oh.
And it's an early release day, so they get out at 1:40. So from 12 to 1:40 every day, the kids that are on par academically, meaning they haven't missed a test, they haven't failed a test, or they're not getting detention or anything like that, they get to choose between this plethora of options to explore. And she's got between 7 and 9 different options each quarter.
And some of them stay the same and some of them rotate.
Exactly. And so these kids get this exploratory period to go and find out who they are and do different activities, whether they be physical activities or academic activities. There's swimming at the rec center. We did cross-country skiing up at Kickadee Ridge. They go across the street bowling with Incline Bowl, and there's a leadership piece to that. And then they get to help clean up the bowling alley, and then they get to actually bowl. They what else are they doing? There's a culinary piece. There's a robotics piece. There was a world music piece.
And so what
crocheting.
was really great was the community really came together. So as Mary said, the Incline Bowl is supporting that outreach, meaning every quarter they've had kids come over. They talk to them about entrepreneurship. They talk to them about leadership. And again, as Mary said, they get to bowl. The cross-country skiing was made possible with collaborations from Nevada Nordic and Tahoe Multisport here in town. Pet Network opened their doors. So 3 of the 4 quarters, the kids went up to Pet Network and learned about future veterinary care and basic pet responsibilities.
It really takes a village, right?
It has been just so amazing. The thing that I feel very strongly about is the water safety. There are more students than you would believe that do not know how to swim, that cannot go next to the water. We live on a lake. So that class is literally saving lives every quarter. Those kids come into that class scared to step in the water. They come out with the rudiments of swimming. So if
they're swimming laps by the end of it.
If something horrible happened and they fell in the water,
they could swim.
They're going to be okay.
Yeah.
There is nothing more valuable than a life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and for me, the most exciting piece of this is it gives the kids a reason to re-engage in school and a purpose, right? They know that they're not going to get to go do that if they keep screwing around or they miss their test or they don't turn in their homework or something like that. So it's helping to build responsibility and accountability into their lives, and it's giving them something to look forward to and something new to explore, and put some fun back in their
day, and it's something that they look forward to, right?
Exactly.
And
their
reason to go to
school.
Schedule.
Yeah.
I mean, you talked about, obviously lives are very important, and you talked about, the emotional state of these children that kind of, had to learn from a screen, right? And we all know what it's like to sit at just for one day or a computer screen, let alone every day, all day.
Right. So can I just interject? Just
absolutely.
Because this is Incline, the IVGID swimming is paid for in full appropriately
by us.
Caveat, yeah.
Just I don't want this to blow up into some viral,
Oh gosh, that's
so,
a whole other topic.
Yes, it has been signed and blessed and paid for.
Oh, great, thank you.
Anyone who's worried about the budget can rest assured that their dollars are not at risk.
Gotta love the village, folks. So with that, I wanted to kind of go back to the social state, the emotional state, and kind of what has happened and what we're seeing with the high school a little bit. You talked about how this kind of whole thing started with a suicide prevention event. So we've seen a lot of drug use. Is there anything on your, and I don't want to say a lot, right? It's all relative.
And
but
again, it's a national issue. But
it's a national issue. But for our little town, every little incident I feel like is very big news, but it's also saving lives. And I feel personally, like, maybe our town's not doing enough and these teens are getting access to these things, right? Whether it's online or whether, whether it's their social circles. And so is there anything on your radar, A, that you're, that's grabbing your attention right now, and then B, is there any programs or anything in the future that you're thinking that maybe we can talk about, like, not only suicide, but, drug use prevention, substance abuse? Yeah.
I really think that starting, and one of the things that we talked about early on is that you have to have a strong foundation. Meaning you cannot wait till the high school and then panic that your students, the high school, your students are not at grade level, or your students are disengaged, or your students are not...
Or engaging in risky behavior.
Engaging in risky behavior. We believe that you have to start with that foundation, which is why we have leaned heavily into the academic support at the elementary school, so those kids can engage and be confident of their skills and feel like school is important to them, because they are successful starting in first grade, going on to second, to third, all the way through to middle school, and then on to high school. So ideally, by the time they get to high school, you don't have that checked out, I don't care, of a student who's struggling, because they are succeeding academically and they can see a future. Whereas if you're a student who, let's say, struggled through school, and Washoe County socially promotes, meaning they do not hold you back if you are not academically ready. Mm-hmm. So you can be at high school and not be academically at a high school level, and by that time, a lot of times you've given up.
Yeah.
So
because you're like, what's the point?
What's the point?
What's the point?
So building that strength, and as Mary said, that exploratory to re-engage. So, wow, if I am doing my homework and making an effort in class and studying for tests and behaving as one should in school, I get to go up to Chickadee Ridge, or I get to go to the beach, or, again, appropriately paid for, rock climbing.
We're going to Hidden.
Next week, a group of kids is going to go kayaking. I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah. Kids that probably wouldn't normally get
a
chance to. But we are providing some social emotional support at the elementary and middle school, and we're waiting for the high school to tell us what their choices are. We just actually, your timing is amazing, because we are just recently this week researching what resources we should be bringing in. I actually was speaking to the sheriff's office, I was speaking to the principal about what kinds of things they would want to see, and working with the boosters to see what kind of programs they want to bring. And I think they are bringing some things in soon.
Good. So what does social and emotional support look like?
At the elementary school, we're piloting a program. It's a passion project of a child psychologist in Reno called the Courage Project, and it's resiliency building, basically. So it takes kids and puts them in stressful situations and teaches them tools to learn how to deal with that stress, and also learn how to deal with your own emotions and regulate those emotions, knowing, we're talking K through 5, the pilot programs with fifth graders, learning that you can't just blurt out whatever you say whenever you want to. You can't hit your neighbor just because they tick you off. You can't throw your pencil or your book across the room because you can't figure out a problem. So it's meant to help give kids those skills to be able to deal with their emotions.
But a stressful situation may mean that you got to go to high altitude and you're scared of heights. And how do you, we're not, how do you...
Not just behavioral.
Yeah, right. How do you overcome that
fear?
That fear, and you get up and you do that climb, and you go a little farther, and then you get to the top. You've done it, you get back down, and how you feel about succeeding over that stressful situation and what skills you've learned can be translated back to the classroom of test anxiety, or scared of reading out loud, or public speaking in a book report. So it's taking all those skills in ways that kids really want to experience and helping them translate them back into an academic setting.
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of adults that could benefit through these behavioral
we all could. We all could, right?
Awesome. Well, if anyone wants to give, or if a local business wants to get involved and help out, is there a program for that?
There are a couple of different ways. Local businesses can join our Dollars for Scholars program, and that's their choice. They could either add $1 to their transactions or have their receipts round up to a particular, make a nice round number. So it's not costing them anything other than their administrative costs of passing through the dollars that they're collecting for us. Right now we've got Mountain Vista Bikes, Sage Leaf, Action Water Sports, glasses, all are regular contributors to that program. And we work with them. Basically, they just collect the money for us and cut us a check every quarter.
Nice.
So they don't have to do it every month. It's just so basically it probably takes them a half an hour, I would imagine, of their administrative time, and they just pass the money through. So that's creating a passive revenue stream for us.
And you'll notice that those businesses tend to generate a lot of, out of basin dollars, visitors to the basin.
Right.
So again, we're staying away from the pools of
constantly going back to the same community members.
Yeah.
Saying,
So
hey,
if you're in for the weekend and you rent a bike from Vista Bikes, you're in, you rent your bike, you donate your $1, and you're back on the rest of your vacation. But that $1 stays here and helps the Incline schools.
Awesome. Everyone should do that.
Yeah.
That's what we think.
Yeah, it's easy. We also look for corporate sponsors on the regular. The Hyatt has just stepped up
in a big way.
In a very big way. $25,000 for 2 years as part of our Step Up for STEM campaign. So they've committed for a 2-year, $25,000 each year commitment.
So that $300,000 commitment is now $250,000 thanks to the generosity of the.
So we're looking for other corporate sponsors to match that or help us get to the rest of the way to the $300,000. And then there's just the general donation way. You could just cut us a check or.
We have a website.
Yep.
What's your website?
InclineEducationFund.org.
And you can click a button and
it's very
donate.
easy to
Donate.
And very exciting news, we'll have a little splash in a couple of weeks. We're redoing the whole website. So if you went to it today, it's a good website. It's solid, but it'll be beautiful in a couple of weeks.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah,
you're obviously both very passionate
We are.
and you're volunteers, so we appreciate you as a community, obviously, and the programs that you're doing are very important and very impactful.
I appreciate your time and asking us to do this.
Thank you so much.
Helps us get the word out.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I did not know you guys do so much.
Oh, that's not all.
Like,
That's not all. We didn't even talk about the Dean's Future Scholar program.
We did not.
we can put some info if you want us to.
Yeah, because that's a program. It's a 20-year program out of UNR, and it's called their Dean's Future Scholars, and it's a first-gen program. So it's run by first-gen students, and it's a mentorship program. So we piloted a program with them last summer. It was a 3-week summer camp, and they came up. They were graduates of UNR themselves in their first gens, and they took the kids through this summer camp. It was 2 days a week down in Reno on UNR's campus, and 2 days a week up here. And we took them to Turk, we took them to the lake, we took them to Petnet.
We being the DFS.
We paid for it.
Yeah, we paid for it. We provided funding. We did not.
But then they are expanding their program, and now they won a $4 million grant with ESSER money. So from the COVID money.
Oh, okay.
To blow the program up and take it throughout the state. So we got them to come up every Wednesday. They're part of that exploratory. So they kept that mentorship relationship with the kids every Wednesday. Like just last Wednesday, they brought this amazing gentleman who's a muralist in Reno.
Oh, cool.
Oh my God, it's beautiful work. And he came in, and he's a first gen himself. He came in and talked to the kids about building murals and what it looked like, and bought pictures, and then they did their own activity to create their own murals, that sort of thing. So they've been coming up every Wednesday since last September to keep that relationship building. And now this year's camp will be 4 weeks, 5 days a week.
Wow.
2 days down in Reno, 3 days up here.
Nice.
And the 3 days are going to be at the UNR Lake Tahoe campus.
Cool.
But the
so
even
cool.
cooler thing is they've also, as the 5th graders will be coming up, they went into, starting in November or December?
December, I think it was.
Went into the 5th grade and gave once a week Spanish language lessons to 5th graders. So the 5th grade as a whole.
Yeah.
And because there
We
are
have such a
bilingual
massive Hispanic community here,
Yes.
and they are so underserved.
So one of them, I saw one of the moms, and she said that her 5th grade daughter is thrilled because she plays soccer with some kids whose language is not as strong, and she now feels like, wow, I can really communicate with so-and-so on the field because she's learning these skills. And unlike where my kids started out, she's able to practice, meaning you have a Spanish lesson and you can practice.
Talk to
You can talk to somebody.
actually,
It's not like a
converse.
Yeah.
So I think
cool.
that those skills, those language skills, as opposed to someone in a non-diverse community, their skills will be stronger because they have much more casual opportunity to need to use it.
Arts, diversity, and inclusion are sorely lacking in this community, and it's, in my opinion, it's resources, right? I mean, and demographics a little bit, but the resources here, it's like, where are we funneling them? And I mean, obviously, I'm preaching to the choir, but it's
and as you well know, Incline has been hollowed out. There are pockets of extreme wealth, and there's pockets of poverty, and there's nothing left in the middle.
I know. Well, I see it every day in housing, right? And so every once in a while, I get an owner that's like, hey, here's what I need to cover my mortgage on my rental property, and I'm okay taking that, right? Even though they could charge $1,500 more.
What a gift that is if there are those homeowners that are thinking globally, and because think of, I mean, really where we are now, just think if it got worse and then the business is closed because there's no one to work. It costs too much.
Shoulder season.
No one can handle shoulder season. It costs too much. I mean, depending on whether you believe we're in a deflation in a year or not, it costs too much to drive up here. So there's no stores, so people leave. I mean, it's a negative cycle.
Negative feedback
loop. The domino effect.
Yeah, so why not switch it and be positive and be like, okay, we're gonna, for Mary and I, improve our schools, work hard to make this a place that people want to live, where they can go to public school and be successful. And I understand that the housing is truly a wrinkle, but if you are someone that's looking at going to Reno and paying for Bishop Manogue, for example, well, maybe you could be up here, go to public school, and not have those expenses. And wow, you can work in town, and so, but that's a much bigger. I mean, we can't solve the housing issue. I mean,
I don't think anyone can. And there's so many different hands trying to make this nice piece of bread that's supposed to be affordable housing. That's just not, and it's so hard because there are just there's too many things that are affecting it.
Well, it's county legislation. It's
five counties, 2 states.
Yeah, 5 counties, 2 states, and then TRPA, and
Well, and then the deed restrictions, and then everything else, and like the deed restrictions don't work. It's it's been bad. I mean, I've seen it, right? And my biggest fear is that we become like Aspen, and we have no teachers and no firefighters and no one that lives in town.
So then you have a fire. What do you do?
Exactly.
Wait for them to die.
We wait for everyone's personal fire departments to put our house on.
Well, that's how, I mean, Vail, I think, we looked at this a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I can't remember.
It was something about what they were paying for the schools. Like they were providing something that most communities don't because Vail's like Aspen, because of the whole disparity.
I know, it's bad.
We didn't talk about college either.
No, and we didn't talk about so we did.
We're going to have to do another video.
Just as we did a big raise, the middle school 1-to-1, which you might have heard of.
Yep.
The next year we did the makerspace, which is just amazing.
The makerspace is amazing.
Yeah,
it is so fun.
It is so cool.
It is so fun.
And then this year was our step up to STEM.
We're actually trying to figure out how to do a community-wide makerspace someday. They're having their first ever family STEM night next month. Unfortunately, I'm going to miss it.
It's being put on by Sierra Nevada Journeys out of Reno.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it'll be super fun.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will go really well, and then next year we can actually plan a community-wide one because we want to bring in certainly at least the Rotary and AEW members because they really supported that program. As did Dave Kolarchuk. He was one of the original
he was a big
sponsors
supporter of Makerspace.
Nice.
The Makerspace or
Makerspace? Both. He did both.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Dave, I work with Dave a lot.
Okay. Very nice guy.
Yeah. Very nice guy. We've got college stuff going on too.
We're gonna have to do another video.
Excellent. Well, thank you.
Thank you.